Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know of Kickstarters launching this week. I know I promised a special video for hitting 4,000 subs and I'm working on it. I'm actually filming this one a bit early this week because I'm going camping this weekend. Pretty excited to get out, do some hiking, some day drinking, some night drinking, hang out around the fire and play some guitar and see if I still remember a chord. Bonus points to anyone who can guess my go-to camping game in the comment section below. But lots of games this week, so let's check them out. And the first game we have is Ryder, and it launches on July 12th, and it plays 2 to 8 players and takes about 15 to 60 minutes to play. And Ryder is a low-luck medieval strategy card game with memory elements where players are dealt a hand of 4 cards. And then there are a few different cards. There's trigger cards, riders, and champions, which come in a few different characters. Players can look at their own hand, but they always have to put them back in the same order, and players can take one action on a turn and then optionally use their legendary ability. On a turn, a player may choose to place one of their rider cards face up in front of another player's card. That player must then reveal the chosen card, and if it's also a rider, the attack and defense are compared, and if you win, the card goes into your treasury. To play a champion card, you place it in the middle of the play area and then follow the card's instructions. Champion cards can also be played as combinations if you have multiple of the same character. These effects can vary and can affect multiple opponents. Trigger cards play a little bit differently and you can't use them as an action. These are triggered if another player tries to attack it or uses a skill that forces that card to be disturbed in any way. Cards are always returned to their face down positions but can also be discarded and replenished from a shared deck, so players will need to keep their eye on the shifting cards to make sure that they don't make any mistakes when their turn comes. The game continues until only one player is left with cards, and the player with the most cards earned in their treasury wins the game. Also on the 12th, we have DUNE House Secrets, and this one plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 90 to 180 minutes to play. And this one isn't really launching on a crowdfunding platform, but Portal Games is actually launching this on a pre-order page on their website, and they say that the pre-order will have unique bonuses tied to it, which I assume means exclusive content. But this re-implements the cooperative game system used in the game Detective, which is a highly praised game that you can find many reviews and playthroughs here on YouTube. And DUNE is going to offer a story-driven co-op adventure where players take on the roles of rebels that have to solve a series of missions with a finite amount of time and resources. This uses a combination of both physical and digital components, and the game starts with an introductory chapter to the DUNE universe and then continues with 3 big adventures, each taking roughly 2 to 3 hours to play. Players earn experience to level up their characters, unlocking new options as the game unfolds. Each adventure can be played separately as standalone episodes, but playing them continuously will give the best narrative experience. Like I said, this one's not coming to a crowdfunding platform, so it's a little bit harder to find, so make sure to check out the link in the description below. And now we have a ton of games launching on the 13th, and the first one is called Taelmoor, and this plays 1 to 6 players and takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. And Taelmoor uses a modular system that combines different game elements and narratives to offer a different story every time you play. One adventure might have you facing off against an ancient god, while another may have you blowing off some steam at a local tavern. The game uses an app which acts as your guide, dungeon master, and bookkeeper, and new scenarios are released over time to give you even more brand new content even after owning the game for several years. And Taelmoor is a scan and play dungeon crawler, which means that it uses a QR code to create interactions between an app and physical board game pieces. The game follows classic RPG principles, and players choose from one of 6 starting classes, and then they can choose to play one-shot scenarios or progress through a multi-part scenario with persisted characters, which can be upgraded through a light deck-building mechanism. The game not only gives you some epic battles to fight, but also some clever riddles for the players to solve. Also on the 13th is Grimm, and I couldn't find a player count for this one, and the time is supposed to be quick to play, so I'll guess that it just plays under an hour per session. And this one is launching on the GameFound platform, and Grimm is a rules-light and art-heavy sci-fi horror RPG, where the GM will be leading the other players through a series of adventures across the final days of the cosmos. Players take on the role of sentient synthetic life forms, each with their own skills, backstory, and possibly a parasitic worm feasting on their spinal fluids. In this reality, the universe is being overrun with zombie-like creatures which infect all living things in their path with parasitic worms that can grow to gargantuan sizes, consuming all that's left of the universe. Players will be fighting for survival, rolling strength and defense tests as they navigate the comic book-esque horror and facetious humor. There isn't a whole lot of info out on this one yet, but there is a teaser sample that they provided that offers a taste of the style and the story. And it's really quite interesting, as well as a feast for the eyes. And I was really impressed with how well it was put together. So if you're into Cosmic Worms of Death, definitely check this one out. I'll have links in the description below. And I have the sample PDF of the teaser over on the Discord, which I also have a link to in the description below. And also, if you're interested, you can follow the campaign to get a free D20 added to your pledge. And next we have I'm Right, You're Wrong, and this plays 2 to 5 players. It takes about 5 to 15 minutes to play. And this is a card battle party game where thematically players are in an argument, taking turns dishing out petty insult attack cards, laying clever traps, or throwing off their opponent by taking the peaceful high road. Each player starts with a hand of 5 cards, and on your turn you draw 1 card and play 1 card. There's 3 types of cards. Attack cards will reduce your opponent's hands or restrict their choices, and if a player ever runs out of cards or can't play any cards that they have, they lose the game. High road cards can be used to gain some special rewards, and trap cards are triggered by certain actions for a one-time effect, or they can modify the rules of the play until they are deactivated. Each card has its own fun set of artwork and flavor text, and the last player standing wins the game. And next on the 13th is Spire's End, Hildegard. And this plays 1 to 2 players and takes about 30 to 180 minutes to play. And this one's going to be my pick of the week. And this is a standalone card game adventure set in the world of Spire's End, which tells the story of Hildegard, the main player from the first game. And in this prequel, you've been tasked with delivering a mysterious package, and rumors are running rampant about what you're carrying. Along the way, you'll encounter dodgy townsfolk, wild critters, and natural disasters, but it won't be all bad, as you can enjoy the outdoors with some fishing, hunting, foraging, and maybe a little riverboating along the way. Spire's End uses a choose-your-own-adventure mechanism where cards will present some choices that players can make. Each decision will guide you to a specific numbered card in the deck, and all the cards between that number and your current card get discarded for the next time that you play. As the story progresses, decisions become more involved, as you may need to pull cards out of order or choose between duplicates of the same card number. You'll also discover items along the way, and the items you've discovered can also modify the outcomes of your choices. Encounters are settled with dice rolls and dice mitigation, and defeating your enemies will take you down one path, while a loss will result in a completely different story arc. If you're lucky, you'll see your opponent before they spot you and be able to take them out with a distance with your trusty slingshot. A neat aspect of this game is that it can also be played as a co-op where the second player takes control of Helvig, Hildegard's younger sister. In this mode, players make choices, shoot targets, and face off against enemies together, with an additional mechanism added to the combat to involve both players. And this is another game here with a really beautiful and unique art style, and the original game has an incredible 8.1 on BoardGameGeek. Lots of love for this game, and this new one takes it in a much warmer direction with a much more comfortable story to jump into. The original Spire's End was very cold and bleak, which is a very different atmosphere. The game has nearly no setup, which makes it super easy to table, and it's really a combination of the high rating and the way that this whole package is delivered that makes this my pick of the week. The game really seems to evoke a certain mood that you can feel even while just viewing the campaign page. It's a really relaxed vibe that probably hits us all a little differently, but to me it's akin to a nice day out on the boat doing some fishing, not worrying about time, what I catch, or if I catch anything at all. And this is really interesting because this is exactly the type of mood the designer was going for, and they really struck a note here because I felt this even before reading that this was their intention. So if you're interested in an accessible and proven choose-your-own adventure that's about the journey and not the destination, definitely check this one out. Links in the description below. Thanks for watching the video so far. If you find this info useful, please consider supporting my work here with a quick smack of that like and subscribe button to help me defeat those YouTube algorithms. And if you'd like to help out the channel while still getting something nice for yourself, check out Kickstartergames.com and use the coupon code SHELFCLUTTER to get yourself a really nice 15% discount off your entire cart. Kickstartergames.com has a ton of games, so if there's one that you've been looking to buy, head over there and save yourself some cash. A small portion of any sales made there will come back and help this channel, which helps make all this effort just a little bit more sustainable. You can check out Kickstartergames.com in the description below. Also on July 13th is Rat Queens to the Slaughter, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a cooperative fantasy fighter where players take on the roles of the Rat Queens, a group of booze-guzzling, death-dealing battle maidens from the dark comedy comic series. Characters come with their own upgradable abilities that you'll have to spend gold to learn, allowing players to customize their character differently each time they play depending on their needs. Players will spend the first half of the game defeating monsters to earn rewards to upgrade their deck and stats, and the more monsters that you take out, the stronger you'll become. Combat is a simplified version of an RPG-style combat with easy-to-learn dice checks for attacks and abilities. Players will also be forging friendships amongst the other players, allowing players to activate special abilities of another player, call in extra aid, or boost their stats. The second half of the game sets you up against a devastating boss and some more advanced mechanisms. There are a few different bosses to choose from, and the one you fight is determined by the monsters that manage to escape in the first half of the game. Successfully defend your town and defeat the boss to win the game. And next we have Bantam West, which plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 180 minutes to play. And Bantam West is a Wild West frontier sim adventure game where you play as one of 4 characters in an open world sandbox. Each player has a unique class and variable powers, and players can be a powerful merchant, gunslingers, arsonists, or thieves. And there's a unique way for each character to come out on top. Essentially, players will be trying to gain the most notoriety by completing 5 different tasks unique to your character. Players will spend actions to move around the board, build cabins for resources, start small-time enterprises, and grow those into large corporations. Along the way, you might also want to fight your enemies and rival players, burn opponents' cabins down to the ground, and earn wealth through legitimate theft. The game uses mechanisms like dice rolling, line of sight, and a bit of hand management for combat. And you'll definitely want to check this one out in the first 48 hours to get the Early Bird Home on the Range expansion all for free. And as always, I have links in the description below. And next on the 13th, we have the appropriately named 13, Unlucky for Some, which plays up to 6 players and takes up to 2 hours to play. This is a high luck game where each player is moving a marble across a really neat board with sliding doors that the marble can fall through. At the beginning of each turn, players will roll a 6-sided die and an 8-sided die. The 6-sided die dictates how many movement points you get, while the 8-sided die determines which slider will get pulled on the board. Any pieces on a slider will fall through the board and roll out the back to the starting space. Landing on the blue spaces causes the player to draw a card, which will have some sort of task that the player must complete, and the first player to reach the end and roll a 13 on a 20-sided die wins the game. And the next campaign is for Top Pop, which is a 2 to 5 player game that takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And Top Pop is a card game where players place city cards onto the table and increase their influence by stacking bottle caps onto those cities. At the start of a player's turn, if their bottle cap is on a higher stack than the other players, they collect that city, and if not, they continue to place bottle caps where they can. There are 2 types of cities. Day cities are placed face up on the table for all to see, while night city cards are placed face down, only seen by the person who played them. At the end of the game, players earn points for majority control in a city and the sets of cities that they've collected. For more advanced game, players can include the variant that grants powers that are earned when a city is collected. And next on July 13th is Methodologie, The Murder on the Links, and this plays 3 to 6 players. It takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a deduction game where players take on the roles of both suspect and sleuth from Agatha Christie's acclaimed detective novel, Murder on the Links. The game has 2 phases, the investigation phase and the accusation phase. In the investigation phase, players will reveal cards from their hands, then interrogate each other in order to eliminate leads until each player only has 1 character, 1 location, and 1 object left in their hand. And then in the accusation phase, players will place target tokens to guess the remaining cards in each of the other players' hands. Any cards not identified by a majority will be scored at the end of the game, and the player with the most points wins the game. Also on the 13th is the Zorro dice game, Stunts and Allies expansion, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play. In the original game, allowed players to perform heroic feats through a Yahtzee or King of Tokyo style dice rolling to earn more dice and eventually face off against a final villain. This expansion gives each player an ally who can level up throughout the game and provides your hero with special abilities and a bit of a catch-up mechanic. Maxing out your ally grants you a special die. The ally will also have a weakness that you'll have to mitigate as you fight scoundrels and villains. Stunt tokens are also newly added to the game, which offer additional opportunities for mid-turn tactics like switching feats or re-rolling your dice. And lastly, more equipment, scoundrels, and villains are added to the game for more variability and more combos to try in your overall strategy. And if you back in the first 24 hours, you'll also get a free face mask of Zorro. And next is Guardians of Fire, which plays 2 to 5 players and takes about 90 minutes to play. And this is a miniatures combat exploration game of light versus darkness. This is a one versus many game where one player takes control of the side of evil, leading an army of darkness against mankind. The other players take on the role of warrior priests with holy powers. The game plays over different scenarios, each with their own victory condition and special rules that may apply. Heroes will be exploring tiles while the evil player tries to stop them by managing the enemies and resources. Both of these are limited, so strategy will be important to make the most out of the available options. Scenarios offer campaign-like play through a series of linked adventures, and heroes will try to achieve the victory conditions for each scenario, but will be able to travel to nearby settlements to rest, gain new skills, and re-equip in between episodes. The minis in the game look awesome, and the game is actually based on the comic series with the same name. I believe the comics will also be offered in the campaign, but to know for sure, you can check out the link in the description below. Also on the 13th is Flicking Finches, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 minutes to play. And this is a family-friendly dexterity game where players control a small flock of finches of different colors and sizes. Players will be attempting to flick these discs as close as they can to the Charles Darwin figure without knocking him over. Cards are dealt out on the table at the start of the game that determine the different evolutionary characteristics Darwin is looking for, and the player that gets closest to him matching those traits earns a seed. The Darwin token will then move along the board to the next island to study the new variety of traits. This continues until all cards are fulfilled, and the player with the most seeds wins the game. Next on July 13th is Assassin's Creed's Valhalla, Orlog, the dice game, and this plays 2 players and takes about 10 to 15 minutes to play. And in this game, each player starts with 15 health points indicated by stones next to each player's bowl, and your goal is to defeat your opponent by taking away all of their stones. Play starts by one player rolling their 6 dice and then selecting which ones they want to hold. Afterwards, the other player gets to roll. Each die has a different face, and it either deals or blocks damage by either an axe or an arrow, or gains or steals a favor token. Some faces of the dice also have dotted borders around them, which will grant a favor token in addition to the action that it performs. Rolling happens for 3 turns, and then the resolution phase takes place, where players compare their attack and defense, and then deal damage accordingly. The catch is that this all happens in order, with the starting player attacking first, which means that the player will normally be more of an aggressive stance, while the secondary player will be more of a defensive stance. Favor tokens are also granted at this time based on the respective player's dice. The game then repeats for another round where the second player goes first, and this play is exactly the same, but before the resolution phase, players can also spend their favor tokens in order to dish out some special attack or defense bonuses as another means to influence the game to their benefit. The game continues this way until one player has lost all of their stones, winning the other player the game. And now for July 15th, we have the campaign for On Mars Alien Invasion. And this plays 1 to 4 players and takes 80 to 150 minutes to play. And this is an expansion to the game On Mars, which is a very heavy Lacerda game. Don't let the welcoming and beautiful art fool you. This one is a chore to learn and teach, so I highly recommend understanding if your crew is up to the task before backing this game. And in this game, players are competing to build colonies on Mars, at first traveling between the Mars space station and the surface of the planet to transport supplies sent from Earth. But as the colony expands over time, you'll shift your activities to construct mines, power generators, water extractors, greenhouses, oxygen factories, and shelters with the goal to develop a self-sustain. The On Mars Alien Invasion is a really interesting short story expansion of 4 chapters, and this one's our Discord pick of the week. The story introduces hostile aliens to the game who are attempting to take any habitable planets for themselves, and they have their eyes set on Mars. One of the reasons this expansion is so interesting is because each chapter has its own mode of play. Chapter 1 is the invasion, and it's a 3 to 5 player 1 versus many mode, with one player taking on control of the aliens. Chapter 2 is the outbreak, which is a 2 to 4 player cooperative mode, and Chapter 3 is the blackout, which is also a 2 to 4 player co-op mode. And then the final 4th chapter is the monolith, that is only a solo mode. If you already know and love this game, this sounds like a really awesome expansion to bring the game to the table with some fresh new ideas. Content for this expansion is used as needed in the individual modules, and it's not mixed with the base game, so they won't be offering a big box option on this campaign. In addition to the high weight rating of this game, the core game also has a really high rating in general with a really nice 8.3. So if you're looking to get this game and you think it will get some table time, it's definitely worth checking out, and I have links in the description below. Also on the 15th is Death Roads All-Stars, and this is a 2 to 4 player game that takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. And in this game, mankind is divided between those in the rich gated metropolises and those in the poor outlands struggling to survive. And this creates a unique opportunity for entertainment for the rich to exploit in the form of a death race, where the winner gains citizenship for a better life with a minor risk potential of a fiery and metal death. Players will pick their car, driver, and a set of deadly weapons, which will dictate the unique set of cards that they'll be able to play throughout the game. Each player will have to manage their car's handling, which represents your overall control, which is lost little by little as you play your other cards. Action cards are used to change the gears and perform deadly combos against other players. A higher gear means a better card effect, so players will want to keep their pedal to the metal. Higher gears do also come with larger penalties for losing control, but you're a pretty good driver, right? Players will also have to watch out for each other as well as the environmental dangers, as the road won't be any more kind. The game offers some fantastic artwork as well as some nice motorized meeples to cruise in style, and the first to cross the finish line wins the game. And finally, on July 17th, we have Dust to Dust, and this is a deck building and disintegration game where players will compete to add and remove cards from their decks, to distill their hands to the very best cards and create streamlined and powerful combos in order to fight off opponents and save their island. Players start with 5 cards, and then they'll be recruiting different hybrid animals as well as humans and even some robotic allies. Play cards to generate energy cells, attack opponents, or shield yourself from incoming threats. Energy cells are used to buy more powerful allies and relics to add to your hand. Card removal is a big part of the game, allowing you to replay some of your more powerful cards more often. But cards also come with some victory points, which may give you some hesitation to which cards you send to the death pile. Gain enough victory points to save your island, and you win the game. That's it for this week, but don't leave yet because we have a couple really awesome giveaways that you don't want to miss. And the first one is for a pledge for Soul Raiders, and this is a cooperative story-driven exploration game from the designer of Splendor that plays over several chapters that each take place in a different setting with their own story deck. To win a chapter, players will need to explore the branching cards to reveal the map and gain a certain number of star icons by discovering and completing a subset of missions, all while fighting back against a growing threat to their world. Players will move, engage in combat, and perform special actions, which the game will react to in various ways, causing stress, injuries, and the appearance of ferocious monsters and many other special events that will threaten your progression through the chapter. And I did say these giveaways were awesome, so props to the publisher for offering up a Grimoire edition of the game. And this pledge comes with everything from the standard edition of the game, as well as a magnetic box, the invisible and clone miniatures, as well as teleportation portal miniatures, chapter boxes, hero tuck boxes, a lore book, and all the stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag SOUL and let us know of an upcoming adventure that you plan to do. For me, this camping trip is the highlight of the year. I've been stuck inside so long, it'll be fun to see if my body can even handle fresh air. And the next pledge giveaway is for Distilled, which was my pick of the week last week. And in Distilled, players are distilling the world's most renowned spirits to earn victory points and win the game. The game's main mechanisms are resource management and push your luck, and each player will have their own unique power and player mat that represents their distillery. The game plays over 7 rounds, and players will be crafting spirits by purchasing equipment and ingredients, distilling their products with a push your luck mechanism, and aging and selling their spirits while building a little engine. I go into much more detail on both these giveaways on my previous episode, so if you want to know more, definitely check that one out. And this giveaway is going to be for the original blend pledge, which comes with the core game and all applicable stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag spirit and let me know of a funny time that you may have overindulged. I once woke up on a concrete floor in complete darkness with no recollection how I even got there, and after about 2 minutes of feeling around strange metal objects and being sure I was part of someone's twisted plot of Saw, I finally found the light switch and realized I passed out in my laundry room. If you don't have a story that's safe to share, just leave the hashtag and we won't ask any questions. And now let's go ahead and draw the winners for last week's giveaways, and the first one we had was Velocity Vanguard. And I'd actually made a goof when I announced this giveaway because I normally always wait until a campaign funds before announcing it on the channel. And that's just to avoid any confusion in case the campaign gets canceled or doesn't fund. This one looks like it's definitely going to fund, so I don't think there's going to be a problem here, but I just wanted to mention that before I went and draw the winner. And to draw a winner, I use this fancy application here, and all these extra names down here are bonus entries for my Patreon subscribers. If you like this sort of content and want to help support the channel while still getting some really nice bonus entries into these giveaways, definitely check that out, and I really appreciate the help towards making this a little bit more sustainable. So let's go ahead and draw those comments and draw a winner. And the winner is Super Sexy Gandalf. Congratulations, I'll reach out to you and let you know you won yourself a pledge for Velocity Vanguard. We also had another pledge giveaway for Kleptokittens over on the Discord. That should be drawn really soon. If you entered that giveaway, make sure to check your notifications on Discord to see if you won. And if you haven't, you might still have a little bit of time to get entered into that giveaway. Links to the Discord in the description below. And that's all I have this week. Until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.